So I released a segment over the weekend around the Labour mayor for North of Tyne, who's been blocked from standing for the mayoralty for the North East mayor. That's going to be a new constituency mayor in that area of the country, right? For what at the time I thought were completely spurious reasons. They'd not given any. But now apparently it's for sharing a stage with a beloved filmmaker, Ken Loach, in which that they were just discussing the issues in the area which relate to a film that he was making. Of course, he stood near the bad man. So that means that he can now never be considered for a high-level position in the Labour Party at all. Again, because it's not about whether or not he was on a stage with Ken Loach at all, really and truly. It's about factionalism for the greatest part. And he has done a few interviews since. He's spoken out. We're going to watch a short clip from Newsnight where he's debating with the gigantic weapon, member of the Labour right, Paul Richards, the Starmer loyalist, which even BBC Newsnight would call him, debating his blocking of being standing for the mayoralty of the North East. So we'll watch that, and then we will discuss it in a little bit as well. So let's have a look.
No one's entitled to this candidature, and if there are better candidates, then those are the ones that the members in the North East will select to do this job. If I was offered an opportunity to stand on a platform with Ken Loach, I wouldn't chat to him about movies. I would challenge him on some of the odious and repulsive things he has said.
Did you do that,
over
Jamie
the last
Driscoll?
25 years?
I mean, I like that they're just taking as read the idea that he has indeed said odious and repulsive things. I've never seen him say these things. Maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. But it's telling the fact that there's been no widespread discussion about Ken Loach's apparent anti-Semitism up until now, in which there is now as a convenient time to exploit it for factional gain in the Labour Party, rather than over the last 40 years that he's been making movies for, right? Also, amusingly, Keir Starmer featured in the McLibel film in 2005. So, he's literally been in one of Ken Loach's films. Weird how no one's pointing that out.
Yes.
Did I talk to... Yeah, I was talking to Ken Loach about film.
No. Did you challenge him on some of his views?
No, again, I reject the premise of this. You don't turn up to a cultural event and then start talking about something you weren't invited to talk about.
Why not? Why not?
Well, exactly what are we talking about here? Are we talking... If someone wants to say Ken Loach is anti-Semitic, they should come out and say it and stop all these briefings. But I want to challenge Paul's criteria there about being good at the job. I am a sitting Metro mayor.
And what's interesting as well is that Ken Loach is somebody who rejoined the Labour Party because of Jeremy Corbyn, right? He was previously a Labour member for quite a while, actually. I think he joined in the 70s up until, leaving sometime in the 90s, I think it might have been. I'm not sure exactly when. But he rejoined because of Jeremy Corbyn. So he's part of the Corbyn clique. And as a critique of austerity, which, of course, that's bad when the Labour government are also promising austerity as well. So, we shall see. But it's clear that it's about his political opinions, and also his political opinions, around Palestine and the state of Israel, etc., etc. And there are plenty of things that you can say about actions that the Israeli state itself has taken in the regions of Palestine, which, of course, any amount of criticisms, regardless of how valid or how completely removed from the ethnic nature of the state of Israel that you make it, can be construed as anti-Semitism regardless. There are plenty of people who have anti-Semitic critiques of Israel, but Ken Loach is not one of them from what I've seen. And even then, right, like Keir Starmer has been, as I said, in one of Ken Loach's films. He's been on panels with Ken Loach. There are plenty of other people who Labour have been very close to, who have done far worse things than anything Ken Loach has done. But we'll come to that in a second.
If I'm not good enough to be a sitting Metro mayor, why has the Labour Party not taken disciplinary action? This is going to damage Labour. He's raising the argument there about, I haven't met the threshold. There is no published threshold.
It's a different job, Jamie. Jamie, it's not the job you're doing now. It's a totally different job with a much bigger constituency.
No, Paul, look, I know a lot more about the North East than you do. I'm doing this job now, mate. And I'm widely respected cross-party. I'll tell you what, Gateshead Labour Group tonight has refused to nominate on the basis of the way I've been treated. Independents have put in motions to councils.
You sound like David Brent. You sound like David Brent, somehow entitled to do the job. This lot behind me, well, they'll back me.
So it's incredibly ironic because he's literally the guy who's talking here, Paul Richards. He's the one who really does sound like David Brent here. Doesn't he just say, well, no, I can't believe that you'd want there to be democratic accountability, so that people have actual choice. No, really and truly, the real David Brent people are the ones who even want to stand as the candidate in the first place and then get barred for no reason, right? The fact that they won't even let members vote on him is incredibly authoritarian, right? If he goes to a vote and the members don't vote him through, that's it, right? Case closed. But they're so scared of somebody with a genuine regenerative platform standing for mayor, because his platform of community wealth building, etc., is very similar to kind of Preston model that I've talked about on my channel 1,000 times, because it's excellent. What every single local Labour Party should be engaging and should be looking towards is the kind of Preston model of community wealth building that's been so successful so far. But no, because Paul Richards is the one, the actual crank here, is saying, no, you have to be my part of the party. You have to be my ideology, otherwise you're not even allowed to stand. We can't give people the choice to make the wrong choice, right? We can only give people the choice between my pre-approved list of people.
No matter what. The rules are there for everyone, aren't they, Jamie? For everybody, even you. Even you should obey the rules.
Now, you are showing a total disregard. If you believe in democracy, why not let the members make that decision?
True.
I'm not asking to be slotted into the job. I'm asking to be allowed to put my case to members.
You've been treated no differently from any other Labour candidate. Every other Labour...
Apart from the Labour candidates who haven't been barred from standing. How is this the same when when every single person who's been blocked for standing from an MP or a councillor or a mayor or whatever it might be, everyone who's been blocked has been from the left. Literally everybody. Find me the name of any right-wing people who've been blocked, right? Nobody. And in fact, the right-wingers, after actually engaging in racism and bullying, are allowed back into the party, right? Rupert Huck allowed back into the party. Neil Coyle allowed back into the party. Angela Smith allowed back into the party, right? All these people from the right of the party, they're all fine, right? No issues with them coming back into the party. But if you're a leftist, you've not even done anything wrong, right? You've just stood near some persona non grata that's been dictated to by the party, by the party apparatus as being no bueno. Suddenly, no position, you're not told any positions within the party at all, regardless. And even then, people who've been blocked from other pieces of candidacy, like Greg Marshall and Lee Drennan, they've never had any allusions to them, having relationship with the wrong people or said the wrong things. With Greg Marshall and with Lee Drennan, it was entirely about the ideology that they had. It was no one's brought a case for anything wrong that Greg Marshall or Lee Drennan did at all. They were just the wrong ideology. They were the wrong people who weren't part of the Starmer clique at the top of the party. Again, which just shows you that when the left were in control, they should have done the same purges that's been happening now, because it's clear that by wanting to build the broad church, they were making a knife for their own back. Clearly there is no room to be nice in politics, at least not party politics, because, you are nice and people throw it back in your face like the Labour right have done. The thing is, they will then go, well, that's just politics, isn't it? You've got to weaponise power to be able to crush people who want to believe in politics as a force for good. It's rancid. It really is rancid.
Labour candidate is asked the question, is there anything there that's going to allow our opponents to beat us up in an election? And you've not apologised for it. You've admitted you did it. It's against the rules and you know that. And now you're pretending that you've been treated differently from...
What rule is it against? Is there a rule against talking with Ken Loach about his films? Find me anywhere in the rule book, Paul. But that's not a rule. That's never been a fucking rule. What the hell are you talking about?
Anybody else?
Which rule says you can't talk to a filmmaker about film? You're making that up, mate. You're making it up as you go along. Now,
if I had that chance, though, I would stand up for the Jewish members of our party who are so offended by what he has done over the last 30 years.
And let me get the point in,
and you didn't mention a word of it.
I'm showing contempt for the people of the Northeast.
And they can now do this with everybody. They can literally do this with anybody who they believe can be erroneously attributed as an anti-Semite. By saying, well, no, you can't be in any position in our party anymore because you will upset people. They'll upset the people in the party, even though there have been plenty of more Jewish members have been kicked out of the party since Starmer took over than beforehand, for essentially being the wrong kind of Jews, for being, as Ben Shapiro called them, ginos, for not standing up for the right of Israel to commit war crimes in Palestine. Literally, anything leftist is now anti-Semitic. I mean, Siobhan McDonough was on Politics Live saying that, or was it in a newspaper article, something like that, saying that anti-capitalism as an ideology is necessarily anti-Semitic, which is the most fucking buck-wild thing you've ever heard. And they're going to continue doing this stuff now that they know that they can completely get away with it within the mainstream media.
This will come back to bite the Labour Party. But I've had people say, I've voted Labour all my life, I'm never going to... I know of one person who got in touch, who I don't know, who said, I dumped a load of leaflets I was going to deliver back on the doorstep of the party office because I'm refusing to support the party. This makes Labour look bad. It makes it look like a control freak party. People in the Labour Party, soft left, centre, are living under the sword of Damocles because everybody knows that they could be next.
Okay, final very brief word.
Well, we're going to...
Literally, things reached a surreal nadir where black members of the party who wanted to complain and talk about issues with anti-black racism within the party were refused, they refused to have their names broadcast about the open letter that they wrote in case that they were hit with deselection, with having the whip removed for talking about how racism is bad. In the same way that the same Jewish people who are talking about the issues that they have with the narratives that's being drawn on this kind of stuff, they just get fucking excised from the party. Naomi Wimborne-Idrissi, who was elected by the party membership as a member of the NEC, as a Jewish woman, was then removed from her position on the NEC and expelled from the party for thinking wrong-think about the Israel-Palestine conflict, right? And that was the reason as well. That was literally the entire reason why she was removed. As a Jewish woman, no less. Which just shows you, and again, none of this does anything to combat the fight against anti-Semitism. These ridiculous conflations, when the far right in this country and across the Anglosphere are becoming brazenly anti-Semitic, right? The kind of stuff you hear about, quote unquote globalists controlling everything. When you have mosques being shot up in the United States because of the kind of anti-Semitic things that are being said amongst right-wing spheres in this country, where Kanye West has the ability to be able to go up on multiple platforms and talk about how much he loves Hitler, and you're actually, but yet you're making these ridiculous conflations about people discussing the Israel-Palestine conflict and trying to attribute one side of that discussion to being anti-Semitic. You're undermining the fight against anti-Semitism in the most heinous party political and factional way. And it's disgusting. It really is disgusting. 60 Jewish members expelled by Starmer. Yeah, on the same people, they say cultural Marxism and stuff like that as well, yeah. They're saying, we literally have government ministers talking about cultural Marxism, but they get a fucking pass to say that shit. Of course they do. Of course, as you rightly say in Imagination Scene in chat, they just don't care. They just don't care.
Select a great candidate for this election. I hope people will vote Labour. There's some great people in the running, and no one is bigger or better than the party or the rules.
But again, he's not even dictated here which rules specifically that he's talking about.
No one's entitled.
There's no rule against standing near Ken Loach. And this is really great. This is actually a really great point being made by Aaron Bastani in replies. Imagine if Corbyn said the Labour MP should be expelled because they failed to challenge Blair over Iraq war on a panel. The media would think it's nuts, even though it should be right that we should condemn people who defend the Iraq war regardless. Do I think they should be expelled from the Labour Party? No. Do I think it should be blocked from standing as candidates? No. I don't think they'd win the selection. I think anybody who is a full-throated defender of the Iraq war would ever win a vote by a constituent of the Labour Party. But do I think they should be stopped from participating in democracy for doing that? Of course not. Of course I don't. Doesn't matter now. Labour is not Labour anymore, but we'll win the next election and Stan will be claiming this ratifies his wanky tricks. It'll be a joke if people weren't dying. Well, exactly. It's so depressing. So depressing. The Labour left will have to accept they're going to lose the whip anyway, so they'll have to leave and either stand as left-wing independents or start a new left-wing party. I think that's the unfortunate reality, or join the Green Party potentially. Try and turn the Green Party into a more leftist party, even though they are pretty leftist. Like Greens used to be anti-NATO, although they're not anymore. the policy prescriptions you're getting out of the Green Party are leftist in nature, right? Or at least they align with leftism. Things like wealth taxes, universal basic income that I've spoken about before, and they are, they have been full-throated in their support of the unions, unlike the actual party of the unions, Labour, which is it's fucking ridiculous to think that that's the case. But the thing is, is that all of this talk about, standing next to the right candidates, not being involved in something that could damage the party's reputation, because that's what was talked about by the guy who we were just listening to there. The guy's just listening to say, well, the real reason is that you're undermining the party because, first of all, they've broken a theoretical rule that doesn't exist. It's made up on the spot. And second of all, they can use this to attack us during the election. Yet, of course, it's interesting how this same dynamic about being attacked at the election time, that doesn't correspond to, I don't know, Peter Mandelson, right? Peter Mandelson's still a Labour lord. Yeah, he's the one who has very well-known connections to Jeffrey Epstein. And even then, as this article that's been shared by Andrew Fisher rightly points out, he had 4 meetings scheduled with Jeffrey Epstein after he's getting convicted. Right? And people there saying, oh, well, you wouldn't say the same about Chomsky. Yeah, damn right I'll say the same thing about Chomsky. Chomsky's dead to me now, right? I will not promote Chomsky on this stream anymore, given his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm sorry, case fucking closed. And I'll have the same criticisms I'll have of Peter Mandelson for hanging out with Epstein. Same thing with Chomsky. Fuck it. But, Noam Chomsky isn't somebody who's a Labour lord. Peter Mandelson is the one who is being given platforms to be able to advise Labour candidates. He's been around in the waiting in the wings in the kind of media bubble surrounding Keir Starmer ever since he started standing for Labour leadership. He's clearly somebody who works very closely with Progressive Britain, or the rebranding of Progress. People like Labour First and Labour to Win, they're all part of the kind of Mandelson clique of the party. And he's a man who's been photographed with a Jeffrey Epstein on multiple occasions, and who has multiple few meetings which were scheduled with Jeffrey Epstein, renowned sex trafficker. Now, I'm not saying that Peter Mandelson has done that himself, right? That would be libelous. But he has had these multiple meetings with him, and you'd have to wonder why. And even if he's never had any intention of doing this and never did, right? Even if he's never done any of this stuff, the same grounds with which Paul Richards is saying that should preclude Jamie Driscoll from being even ability to stand to elect to be chosen by the members to be the mayor of the Northeast. Those same prescriptions of, well, you'll damage the party while have this attack line being able to be used on us. That same attack line can be used against the party at large because of their connection to Peter Mandelson. But does that get the same response from the media? No. Does it get the response from the Conservatives? No. Does it get the response from the Labour Party? No. It's because Peter Mandelson is part of the establishment, and the rest of the establishment, which involves the media and the Conservative Party, they don't want to touch it with a barge pole. And Paul Richards knows that Peter Mandelson is part of his faction of the Labour Party, who's not turning it on his own faction at all. And this is Keir Starmer on panels with Peter Mandelson, after all this Jeffrey Epstein stuff has been widely known to the public. Yep, Trump, Clinton, all friends with Epstein. It's absolutely unreal that there's just, again, I say it's unreal. It's obvious now. Obviously, it's really that this was always going to happen, right? Labour right going to do Labour right factional stuff. But there's just not the defences that they have are just so completely paper thin. And it's not just going to be lefties in the party that are going to the genuine like left wing socialists in the party that are going to get attacked by this stuff, because Andy Burnham is also somebody who is being, as the New Statesman have said, a problem for Keir Starmer for doing things such as having principles and being likable and wanting to put forward policies that people might want to be able to vote for, right? Being outspoken in his defence of his position as the mayor of Greater Manchester, thinking that proportional representation is good, having his own political opinions that he shares, rather than just towing the party line and everything, right? Of course, he might be a problem, for having charisma. unlike Sir Keith himself. And he has come out. This is an interesting tweet here, talking about he mentioned the Labour Leaks report and how soft left Andy was too far left the alt-right within Labour's headquarters. They hate anyone who's a millimetre to the left of Blair and Mandelson. When he here saying that he had his own pro-public NHS and social care policies demonised by the party machine in 2010 and 2015. And Andy Burnham's been out talking about how he's been interviewed by Rivka Brown on Novara Media talking about how he thinks that New Labour got it wrong on public ownership. It's a big statement for him, right? I know Andy Burnham is not massively liked by a huge portion of the Labour left, and I think they're misguided in doing that. I think he is someone with principles. And for him to, as a high-profile member of the New Labour kind of administration, to admit publicly in conversation with a left-leaning media outlet, yeah, we got it wrong on this stuff. That's a big climb down for him to do, and which he would have no reason to do unless it was something he genuinely believed in. I really don't think so. So really and truly, and Andy Burnham has come out recently and has backed Jamie Driscoll. Right? Let's go. If you have a look here, what Andy Burnham was talking about, did a thing with Steve Rotherham, who's the mayor for Liverpool City region. That's the one. And in their letter, they explicitly repudiated what the NEC did, and you should have at least the right of appeal. But it has a responsibility to ensure decisions are democratic, transparent, and fair. To exclude a sitting mayor from a selection process with no right of appeal appears to be us to be none of those things. At the very least, we believe Driscoll should be entitled to a process of appeal with the ability to put his case to an NEC panel. We consider this to be a reasonable request and would be grateful if the NEC should give it serious consideration. Not only, and this is not even him saying that he should just be reinstated and this is factional. They've not talked about factional warfare or anything here. They talked about his successes, that's good, but they don't even talk about his reinstatation. It's just basically an appeals process. There's not even something that's particularly radical as far as concerns are. And then, yet still, Pete, like the absolute fucking ghouls on the Labour right are in the replies saying that this is bad form from Andy Burnham. They're coming for him. Don't you fucking doubt it that the Labour right are now coming for Burnham as well. It's the problem of him showing up the party by being a good candidate with principles. It's unreal, absolutely unreal how far this factional warfare is going to go. That even Andy Burnham, somebody who's trying to repudiate some of things like Jeremy Corbyn's foreign policy, which is not exactly the best foreign policy, but I agree. I respect the positions that he holds on foreign policy, at least, and the reason why he holds them, even though I disagree with some of them. Even after all of that, Andy Burnham's not good enough. He's not good enough for the Labour right. And this is the fucking surreal position that we're in. And I'm glad that Jamie Driscoll, right, this seems to be like the first time where we've had like broad coverage of this on the mainstream media. There's been discussion on Times Radio, on Sky News, etc., etc. He's actually had a platform to be able to speak about this stuff. Not many platforms, right? This is me looking at the most recent discussions of Jamie Driscoll on YouTube. Like you see if you look at vidIQ, it shows that as a search term, which it won't show you. As a search term, vidIQ shows it's a very low competition, so very few people are talking about it. And you can see that out of the most recent 4 videos, one of them is me. Actually, of the most recent like 8, 2 of them are me, and one of them is Novara Media, and not the Andrew Marr show. But at least he's had discussion on Times Radio. He's been interviewed on Sky News, right? So the media murder has kind of stopped at the very least. But it's just this. I can't believe that the media is so silent on this factional warfare in the party against the left. What is it? One interview on Sky News, one on Newsnight we just watched, and then Times Radio did a bit where they didn't even talk to him, and they talked about Jonathan Reynolds instead. It just shows you where the power structures of this shit lies, and how much of it is factional, how much of it is like of genuine concern. Because I'll tell you right now, none of it's genuine concern. It is all factional. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. It does help out the channel and the algorithm. And if you click the bell notification icon, it will let you know when I go live and when I upload videos. If you'd like to follow me on social media, my handle is @NoJusticeMTG, and that is Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. If you want to support my channel in a more financial manner, you can do so by becoming a member for just 99p, by super chatting, or by supporting me on Patreon, with the link is in the description of this video, and hopefully I'll catch you on the next segment.